everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to talk about phase cancellation, all that kind of stuff, and how it affects your recordings. Sound travels in waves. It has peaks and valleys. And when you have multiple microphones on a particular source, it's very important to make sure that all the peaks are happen at the same time and all the valleys happen at the same time. Otherwise, they cancel each other out, and that can be a real pain in the ass. Point worth mentioning on that would be make sure you listen in mono a lot of the times when you're mixing, because that's a great way to hear it. Sometimes if you got stuff panned out to either sides, you don't know if the sources will be canceling each other out. So always check your mono button. That's and if nobody ever told you that before, go slap that person, because that should be lesson number one. So what we got here is from the Vias record I did a couple years ago. This is from that miracle one-take drum track we did. It's a 7-minute piece, and the guy nailed it in one song. Oh, it's simple, but it's simple. Yeah, let's see you do it. Anyway, so what we got here is... This was one of the rough mixes. I never ever, I wound up finishing this in Harrison Mixbus. But for today's lesson, this will work out perfect. So what we've got are 3 different mics on the snare. Top, bottom. There's actually 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. A 57 and a condenser. Anyway, point being, all 3 different mics have different sounds, and we're combining them to get that. So we've got this. I'm going to mute out the drum reverb here so just so we hear exactly what's going on. That's our 57. That's our condenser. And that's the bottom snare mic. Now, the bottom snare mic is usually out of phase with the top snare mic, and so it's just, in this case, it seems to be in phase. Looks like we hit the phase invert polarity invert on the board as we were recording, so we wouldn't run into any issues. So here's the issue. What happens when you have 2 mics out of phase? Again, we'll take a listen to this snare, see what's going on. We're just going to take the 2 top mics because they're in perfect alignment. And let's invert one. And the snare just kind of disappears. It loses all its girth. We invert this again. There we go. Much more of a thump, of a thwack. So what's happening there is as the phase cancels itself, we lose a lot of the bottom end. So if you wonder why your drums sound thin, this is probably issue number 1. You didn't check the phase. Now, this is just 2 snare mics on the top. All the mics have a relationship with each other, though, and that's can be a real pain in the ass. Like your snare and your overheads need to work together. And if I invert this, you can hear that kind of work against itself. And the bottom end is there. We flip again. Back to normal. Again, this is going to affect your snare drum, your toms, your kick drum, everything. Everything has to be checked for phase alignment. So if you've got 7 or 8 mics on the drums, you might be here a while. There is a wonderful automatic feature in Harrison Mixbus that will sort that all out for you and find out what works the best. And it does it in about 30 seconds, and it's absolutely incredible. And I haven't seen it in any other DAW but Mixbus, and it just works great. It flips all the phases and just figures out what signals work the best in what combination. So gotta give Harrison some credit for that one. But for most intents and purposes, we got this right on the way in. These drums were recorded at Phase 1 in Toronto in that incredible drum room on that incredible Neve board. And yeah, there's not much to say besides that. So yeah, you're going to have to check your tom mics with your overheads. You're going to have to check your tom mics with your room mics, depending on how close they are to the source. The further out, phase becomes less of an issue, but definitely toms and snare versus overheads. And again, great way to check that is kick on the old mono button, because it's a good chance your overheads are stereo. And let's just hit mono here. Turn off that reverb for a second so you hear what's going on. And so there you go. Yeah, the mono button's definitely going to be your friend. So always check your phase alignment on your drums. It's a big pain in the ass and totally worth it. And it still sounds way better than using samples. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to take a look at here was guitar. We've got some dual mic guitars here that I used in the Fredman technique. And let's just solo that up here. So what we've got, let me put these in mono so we can really hear what the hell's going on. We'll get those dead center here. So we've got bright mic, dark mic, and together we get that. And this becomes kind of a sliding EQ. Now, I've learned the real trick to doing this method is to use a small, inexpensive mixer and do that on the way in instead of trying to mix it in your DAW, because the mixer will add a little something extra to the tone and just make it that much cooler. See my greatest guitar recording trick I ever learned video for full details on that. And don't take my word for it, because I stole the idea from Ulrich. Well, thanks, Ulrich. You rule, dude. Anyway, point being here is phase is a big issue here as well. This is the Fredman technique. Is using two mics. One mic is straight on, one is at a 45-degree angle. The straight on mic is the bright mic, and the 45 is the dark. So once again, once we combine them, we can use that as a sliding EQ, and it's great. But if we were to invert the phase on one mic, watch what happens. So that's actually what's being taken out using of the guitar sound when you use this method. It just takes out all that annoying harsh frequencies, and yeah, what do I got mixed about here even? So that sounds pretty horrible flipped with the phase stuff. And if you have everything checked and you're in phase, you can use that and manipulate the tracks really easily and get some awesome sounds. So yes, the phase button is your friend. Make sure you use it and use it often when you're mixing, because it can solve a lot of issues. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If there's a tutorial you would like to see, be sure to leave a comment below, leave a suggestion, because I am always looking for new ideas and I really want to hear back from you guys about what you want to see on the show. Anyway, thanks again, and I'll have another tutorial for you guys next week. See you later.